Hi everyone. We can go ahead and get started. It's 10:03 here. I'm Emily. I'm an agent product manager here at Conduit, and this week we're just going to dive into our webinar, which is going to be about sending troubleshooting instructions and scheduling maintenance intervention. Before we start, I'm going to add a link into the chat. This is our link to join our school community. In around 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to move webinars from Zoom to school. So highly recommend joining school so that you can stay up to date on all the information from Conduit. We also are pretty active in school, so it's just a way for us to build a community here at Conduit. Okay, now I'm going to change my screen and then we can go dive into the workflow. As always, feel free to leave any questions that you have in the chat, and then I'll be sure to look at them whenever I have the chance while I'm working on these workflows. Okay. Okay, great. So to start, we're going to actually dive into the workflow template that we made that corresponds with this webinar. So from now on, webinars are going to be accompanied with a template if we're talking about a specific workflow. So for instance, if you were at last week's webinar, we talked about the notification for upsell services, but today we're going to talk about scheduled maintenance intervention. You can also follow along with this template during this call as well. So what this workflow is actually going to do is this is for the cases when a guest is struggling with an appliance. For instance, the heater's not working, the air conditioning is not working, and you want your AI to respond to the message. So like to provide the troubleshooting instructions, such as wait to see if the light turns on, plug it in, take it out, just things that are like related to troubleshooting. But what if those troubleshooting instructions don't work and you want to notify maintenance? Instead of having the AI send this is what you should do, and then nothing happens, what this will do is this workflow is going to first notify or is going to first provide the instructions to actually troubleshoot the issue. Then if the guest isn't able to handle those instructions or they're not able to resolve their issue, we're going to send a Slack message to maintenance. So here's the workflow that we're going to actually start on, but we're going to first go into the procedure because this workflow is triggered by a procedure. I have this example, which is called like sound system issues that applies to the guest inbox and will be for all my listings. So if a customer reports an issue with a sound system, I added examples such as not finding the remote or the remote being unresponsive, we're going to send the following instructions. You can add more information here, such as there are no batteries, or I can't hear the sound. We want to add as much information as possible here, so the AI has enough information to detect, okay, is this actually a sound system issue or what type of issue is this? Then I have some troubleshooting instructions. Yeah. Then I have some troubleshooting instructions. For these troubleshooting instructions, these are just like pretty generic things. These are just like common ways for the specific customer, how they would troubleshoot or what they would send to guests when they couldn't like figure out how the sound system works. So if you have like a templated response, or just if a customer says, hey, this thing isn't working, and then you automatically copy and paste something to send to the guest, you can just copy and paste this here, and the AI will be able to send this. Let's say you have a customer and they follow these instructions and they're able to resolve the issue. That's great. You don't have to notify maintenance since their issue was resolved. They were able to figure out the sound system. But what if the customer comes back and says, hey, like the remote still doesn't work. I still can't figure out the sound system. In that case, the troubleshooting steps didn't work, and we want to notify maintenance team so that someone can be in touch to actually address the issue and like either go to the customers or the guests like property, or they can send like further instructions. So we have the second part, which is if the guest replies and says the remote still doesn't work or the sound system still doesn't work, then tell the guest that maintenance has been dispatched and will be arriving to address the issue shortly. Then we're going to call the schedule maintenance intervention workflow. So to call a workflow, how you know that it's a workflow is it's going to be in these like two brackets and it'll be blue after you hit save. You want to write this exactly as like the workflow that you're trying to trigger or call. And we also have these add a variable sections. So here you can actually, if you already built the workflow, what you can do is just select one of these workflows and add it here. So this is a lot easier than having to type out schedule maintenance intervention. You can just click add a variable, schedule maintenance intervention, and then the workflow will be triggered. Okay, does anyone have any questions about this procedure or how it's written, or how it works? Okay, we'll move on to how this procedure actually ties into the workflow, and then yes, okay. We'll dive into this workflow and then we'll dive into the workflow. So again, going back to find this schedule maintenance intervention workflow template, you're just going to go to workflow template. It's already added, so you can do this along with me. And then I'm going to answer some of the questions. So the first question is, can you share a general explanation for the new AI tool feature? What is this for? So this is basically referring to this node, the AI tool call. We went over this in the last webinar too, but just to recap, what this trigger does is this connects the workflow to the procedure. So remember back in the procedure when I use like this add a variable, the way that this workflow is like in this like little section is because I have the AI tool call trigger. So you can give a name to this AI tool call. This is just something that will connect the procedure to the AI. So the workflow knows if this procedure happens and if things happen in this procedure, this is the workflow that is going to be triggered. So yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Okay. The next question is from Rod Ross. So that workflow needs to be created with AI tool call. Yes, all procedures that are connected to a workflow need to have the AI tool call trigger. This because this is like what is actually starting the actual workflow. Okay, is the AI tool call case sensitive? Okay, the next question is the AI tool call case sensitive? I'm not sure. I haven't really tried testing if it's case sensitive, mainly because I don't try to type it. I don't like typing, so I just click add a variable and then I just select this. And I think this is a lot easier because like I don't have to type anything at all. Okay. Answered all those questions. Okay, now we're going to go back into the schedule maintenance intervention workflow. So we have a description right here, which provides just an overview, but since we're just going through this, what this will do is when a guest has issues with the sound system, air conditioner, heater, air purifier, or things that are similar, we're going to notify the maintenance team to be dispatched and address the issue. In Extract AI Info is essentially a node that allows the AI to have access to certain information. So for this case, this is my prompt. In my prompt, I'm asking the AI to summarize the issue that the guest is experiencing from the past 10 messages using contact recent messages. And then I want to capture it in the variable summary. So just stepping back with these variables, we have some out-of-the-box variables that you can use from Conduit. So that includes like the listing information, the reservation information, also information that's associated to that specific contact. Because I want the AI to have access to specific messages so the specific conversation that the AI had between the guests and like the actual conversation, I want to use contact recent messages. And then we can actually make our own variables. So we have these variables that Conduit just provides, but if I want to make a variable myself to like be used later on, this is where I would create it. So For instance, here I wrote summarize the issue from the past 10 messages, and I capture it in the variable summary. Right here under extracted variables, I have my variable name, which is summary. And in the description, I'm summarizing the past 10 messages from the guest. This is completely customizable too. Like, let's say you want to do like the past 5 messages from the guest, the past 100 messages from the guest. Anything that you want to store in a variable can be stored in here. For the type, you want to select the appropriate type. So for this, since it's a summary, which is text, I would choose a string. But if it's like a yes, no answer, or if it's a number, if it's a number, you would just select this one. But if it's like a yes, no answer, like return yes if this customer needs help, then I would use a Boolean. But for this one, since I want a summary, I would use a string. And then we have this new leave a note feature. So what leaving a note does is if you've ever been in the inbox, there's like a feature where you can click note, and then you can either tag like your guests or not tag your guests, you can tag like your team members to say, hey, this guest is having an issue, like Stacy, can you reach out to them? So this just leaves a note in the actual conversation so that like if anyone opens the conversation, they'll know like, hey, a workflow was run for this. Here's the guest contact and here's a summary. This is also helpful if you don't really want to read the entire conversation. You can just get the AI summary. This summary was created in this extract AI info node. And then you also don't even need this leave a note feature. If you don't really want to leave a note, or if you don't like use this feature at all, you can just delete this as well. Now we have send a Slack message. So if your team primarily uses Slack, this is where you would send a Slack notification to your team so that they can address the issue. So you would have to make sure that your Slack is connected to your channel or to your Conduit account. To do so, you would just go into settings, integrations, discover, and then there would be a Slack, there'd be a Slack icon right here. I have it enabled, so it moved from discover to enable, but that's important for making sure that that workflow actually works. Then you would select your actual channel. So I'm going to use like my 911 Slack channel. And then here is the exact message that I'm going to be sending to this channel. So the first is the following guest has a request that requires maintenance intervention. So I have the contact, I have the reservation guest contact full name. I got this from the variable feature. So reservation full name right here. The link to the conversation, again, this is the same variable. It would be under contact. So where is this? Yeah, it'd be under contact inbox. You just need to find it. Yeah, it'd be contact inbox link. What this does is this will send an exact link to Slack. So if there is like an issue that is popping up in your Slack, like if you receive this message, instead of having to go into Conduit, look up the guest name, try and find the exact conversation, you can just click this link and go exactly to that guest conversation. And then finally we have the summary. This is the summary variable that we created in extract AI info. Okay, so before I move on to the last node, I'm going to, actually I'll answer the questions after the last node. Finally, we have send AI message. So what this will do is after the message has been sent via Slack, we're going to go back to the guest to manage expectations and let them know, hey, we received your request. Someone is going to either be on their way, or we can just say like someone has received your request. For select contact, you want to make sure that you select the variable AI tool call. This will make sure that the AI message is sent exactly to the guest who like had the issue. We're going to use last message channel. So if your conversation was happening on like Hostaway, on Guesty, or like via email, we're going to use that last message channel to like keep everything the same. Of course, Conduit is omni-channel, so it'll still be like the same thing on your end, but this is just more for the customer side. We're going to enable use previous message because we're actually going to write the instructions for the AI to respond. So instead of sending like a template response, which is like a little like not basic, but we want to make sure that our conversations are tailored to that specific guest. we're going to enable this. And in the prompt, we're going to say, tell the guest that the message has been sent to the maintenance team to address the issue. So for each specific guest, they're going to get a different message, but they're all going to get the same like general, like they're going to get the same general gist, which is the maintenance team is going to address the issue. Just the wording will be a little different depending on the previous conversations. Okay, I'm going to answer some questions now. Okay. First question is AI tool call only can be triggered by the procedure. Yes, if it's an AI tool call, it can only be triggered by a procedure. For now, maybe we'll add different features where maybe like a phone call can trigger this AI tool call like later, but for now, it can only be triggered by procedures. Okay. The second question is, we sometimes face issues when guests don't allow us to enter the property unless they are present. Would it be possible to add a variable based on the guest response so that we can agree on a suitable time to enter accordingly? Okay, yeah, that's entirely possible. We can do that. We can go into customizations now. So to customize this, we want to like ask the guest, hey, when is an appropriate time for us to enter the property? So right here, after the troubleshooting instructions were sent, what I would do in the procedure is ask the guest if it's okay for us to enter the property. Oops. And then we'll give them like two options. If the guest says no, then respond to, then ask the guest. If the guest says yes, then tell them. Okay, so I added this to the procedure. So what this message does is if a guest says, hey, the sound system still doesn't work, I need help, we're going to then have the AI ask the guest, okay, is it okay for us to enter the property? If the guest says no, like, no, I don't want you to enter the property, we're gonna ask, okay, what time are we available to enter? So we're like scheduling the time with like the actual guest. But if the guest says yes, then that's basically just what we were doing before. For both scenarios, since I have like this little dash and then these two options, for both scenarios, schedule maintenance intervention workflow is going to still be called. Now I'm going to go back to the workflow and I'm just going to like update the information. So in extract AI info, I'm going to make a new variable because now we have more information from the procedure. So this will be helpful because we're also just showing you live how to make new variables. So I want to extract if the guest said, I'm going to copy this variable and I'm going to click add to field. In the description, you want to make sure that your description is like has enough information so that the AI knows, okay, like this is what goes in this exact variable. So and then this also shows how you can use different variable types. So for this one, I'm going to use a Boolean because this is like true or false or yes or no. Like yes, the team can enter or no, the team can enter. I'm going to make another variable called time to enter. So extract from the going to copy and paste this again, and then make another variable called time to enter. So track the time. We can either do a string or we can do like a numeric value. I personally like using the string still, and then I'll show you why. So for the sending a Slack message, now we have we have two new variables. We have okay to enter and then time to enter. How do we want this information to be passed on to the maintenance team? So in the Slack message, I'm just going to add like another field called like okay to enter, or guess gave permission to enter. And then I'm going to go in, click add a variable, and then click OK to enter. So now the AI in the first node, extract AI info, is going to return true or false, depending on if the guest allows the team to enter. So if the guest said, yes, we can enter, we're going to have true right here. And then we're also going to have time to enter, and then adding in this new variable that we made. And then now your team will have access to now the team will know, is it okay for me to enter? And also what time can I enter? We can also update the AI information as well. So we can say, if the guest said the team can only enter at a certain time, then provide the time to enter. So this is helpful for just managing expectations between your guest and your team so that they know, okay, when are people coming over to address the issue? And just keeping them informed that they are staying in the loop. Okay, any questions about those two customizations? So we essentially went over two topics, just creating a variable, actually creating two variables, and then also being able to use a Boolean instead of just a string. Okay, we'll dive into the next one, which is, okay, let's say you are back in your procedure and let's say you're back in your procedure and I copied and pasted this because this is just what I had on hand. But let's say you already have troubleshooting instructions in your knowledge base. Can the procedure get that information from your knowledge base and basically do the same thing? So this is for sound system issues where I have the troubleshooting instructions in the actual procedure, but I have Dyson air purifier troubleshooting. So if you read this, if a customer has an issue with the Dyson air purifier, such as not finding the remote being unresponsive, or just that the air purifier isn't working, we're going to send the Dyson troubleshooting instructions from the knowledge base to the guest. So if I go into knowledge, I think I put it in guest, I copied and pasted the actual troubleshooting guide into the knowledge base. So in my procedure, since I'm referencing the knowledge base, and since the AI has access to both the procedures and the knowledge base, I can still send the same instructions from the knowledge base to the guest. So if you already have instructions or not even just for troubleshooting, just any general instructions, you'll be able to reference those in the procedure. And then the same thing, if the guest replies and says the air purifier still doesn't work, then we'll tell the guest that maintenance has been dispatched and will be arriving to address it shortly. And we'll call, again, the same maintenance intervention. The difference between this procedure and then the other one also is for this one, what if I want to tell the guest, maintenance will be there immediately to address the issue? What you would do is you would just add another line, say, tell the guest maintenance will be there to. So we can add something similar to this so that the procedure would be the one telling the guest, hey, this is ready, or hey, maintenance team will be there within an hour. But we can also just go into the actual workflow and then do the same thing. So here we're telling the guest that a message has not been sent. or that the message has been sent and the maintenance team will address the issue. If you remove this, then nothing will happen, like nothing will happen in the workflow, but because we wrote it already in the procedure, then the guest will still get the same message. It just depends, like, how do you want the guest to receive the message? Do you want to receive it before the Slack message is sent or after the Slack message is sent? Okay, so in the step of Slack, the Slack wait for the maintenance team to reply that the workflow is going with the next step. Yeah, okay. So in this instance, we are responding to the guest after the Slack message has already been sent. And this is just like to, I guess, like keep you honest between like the guest and the team. So this is like saying like, oh, the team has been notified. They were notified, like we know that they were notified via Slack. But if you include it in the procedure, then this will just, yeah, I removed it. But if you say it in the procedure, then this will send the message before Slack is notified or before the message is sent in Slack. Personally, like I recommend just doing the send AI message in the actual workflow instead of the procedure. And that's how it is like in the actual template. We'll go into some more customizations for this workflow. So let's say your team doesn't use Slack. Let's say your team uses like WhatsApp, Gmail, or they use like something different. We can actually just change this as well. So instead of sending Slack message, we can do like send via email. What you would do is you would select via email. You would select the person that you want to actually send the message to. So if you already have your maintenance team or if you have a specific person that usually handles maintenance requests in Conduit, you would just add their contact here. So like for me, mine is like Christina Zhu. You would add your provider and then you would just populate this information here. This information will be like the same for each person, or this will be the same. It's not like a prompt where you're giving the instructions. This is also helpful. So yeah, just including like the same information such as like contact, reservation full name, and then also inbox link. And then again, we'll do like the summary. Make sure that you click save. So right here, I just changed from Slack to email, and this will be helpful in case that your team doesn't use Slack and they primarily use email, or you can also just send an SMS message. My SMS isn't connected for my Conduit account, but there's like Conduit is omnichannel, so you can send this message in a multitude of ways. Okay. Any other questions? Or if you want, I can just answer anything about Conduit in general as well. Okay, thanks, Rod. In the meantime, while we're waiting for Rod's question, if you join the school, you can also ask questions in school. And then like I'm pretty active in school. Our whole team is also like active in school. So if you want, let's say you are responding to, you're asking a question to support and you want to get noticed, you can also just ask in school as well. So highly recommend joining school. Can go into more customizations, or I can actually just show you this actual example. So I ran this earlier, like in the week. So this is just how a conversation between you and the guest would work using the system. So first we have this guest, John Smith. So John Smith is having issues with the sound system. The workflow, or actually the procedure, sends the actual instructions. So, hi, please place the remote on its charger for at least 30 minutes, then turn it on. And then, yeah, just essentially provides the troubleshooting instructions. If the guest responds and says, I tried this and it still doesn't work, then we have the AI message saying, okay, thanks for trying those steps. Our maintenance team is on the way now to sort this out. Then it should arrive shortly. You can see the source that it used. So you can see right here that the source that it used was our procedure, which is correct. This is what we want it to use. And on like Slack, I received the Slack message saying, hey, here's the actual message. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. If you see in Slack, we have the person, John Smith, and we have like the message, the following guest has a request that requires maintenance intervention. We have the contact, the actual link to the conversation, which is clickable. And then we have a summary. So this is a summary that we made in the extract AI info step, and it will take me directly to the exact conversation. So instead of having to navigate into Conduit, go through my inbox, find John Smith, I can just click that link. Okay. Okay, we have a new question from Rod Ross. So I have a workflow that sends a message to the community gate. The AI requests the guest ID, then forwards them to the community gate. But what happens if I have two reservations at the same time? What if the community gate requires two similar messages? How will the AI know which confirmation responds to which reservation? Okay, that's a great question. So the AI is, okay. Let's say you have a workflow that has two messages. So let's say you have one person who like says, hey, like I need this maintenance thing cleaned. You have another person who says, hey, I need this maintenance team cleaned. Or if you're forwarding messages from like the team, okay, this is better to be shown as like a triaging workflow. So general escalations, this is a good one. So let's say you have an agent injection that contacts a team member and says, hey, I have the guest IDs and they're right here. Actually, this isn't, yeah, I have the guest IDs and they're both here. And your team approves one of the IDs, but it doesn't approve the other one. You would have to add something that's like along the lines of, when you are approving this ID, only approve the one that is associated to this first and last name, or only approve the one that is associated to this confirmation number. We went over this like in a previous webinar, but the AI, if it goes to, let's say it has like 10 requests for approving the guest IDs, and it sends them to, it sends it to like your team member. If the team member responds yes to one of them, then it would respond yes to all 10 of those IDs. So you would just have to add something. I'm gonna actually pull up the guest screening, actually. So here, when you're asking the guest for their full name and ID, I would just like right here in agent injection. So you would want to add something along the lines of only approve the response that is associated to that specific confirmation number. So this ensures that your message is only sent to the guest with that specific confirmation number, and then like the other 4, the other 10, they aren't getting approved. But yeah, that's a good question. I think that's something that is like kind of hard to wrap your head around, but yeah, a good question. Okay. Are there any other questions either about any of the workflows that we went over today? So like the guest screening or the general escalations, or also the scheduled maintenance intervention. Again, scheduled maintenance intervention has now been added to templates, so you can find it here. You can just watch this, you can watch the recording and configure this yourself. Additionally, if you were here at last week's webinar, the notification for upsell services has also been added to templates. So it uses the same principle of when an AI tool call is made, we're going to extract and summarize the info, then notify a team member that the guest has accepted the upsell request. Okay, I guess if we have no other questions, thank you so much for joining this webinar. Next week's webinar, we'll go over another workflow template. And of course, if you join our school community and you want to suggest different topics for webinars, feel free to suggest those there, and then I'll take a look at those as well. But thank you everyone for joining.